In my last video, I discussed the pitfalls of the time token and what led to its demise. In this follow-up video, I aim to highlight how wMEMO compares to the time token and how it resolves some of its issues. So first off, what is wMEMO? wMEMO, commonly referred to as wMEMO, is essentially just a container for memo. Every rebase, the amount of memo inside the container increases, but the size of the container remains constant. In practice, this is observed through the wMEMO to memo exchange rate increasing every rebase, which is displayed here on the staking page. To further explain this, I've tried to put together a somewhat visual example. Imagine this circle is a pizza. I own the blue half, you own the red half. We both have what I'll call a half pizza that contains one slice of pizza. Now imagine we progressively cut the pizza up into more and more slices. We still only both have a half pizza, but it just contains more slices. We can split our pizza up into more and more slices, but every time we do, each slice gets smaller and smaller. Even with the pizza cut up into 20 slices, we still only have 50% of the pizza each. The only way for us to actually get more pizza is to increase the size of the pizza. In this analogy, the pizza represents the market cap. A half pizza is similar to wMEMO, which contains the slices of pizza, which is similar to memo. No matter how many times we produce more memo, we have the same amount of wMEMO. And the supply of wMEMO is fixed, in this case the two half slices. The percent of the whole market cap, or the whole pizza we own, is constant. From this example, it is clear that unlike time, wMEMO does not suffer from inflation through rebasing. This means that unless minting is reintroduced, the maximum wMEMO supply is capped and cannot increase. This lack of inflation means that unlike time, there is no constant downward pressure on the price of wMEMO. Additionally, this makes tracking the value of your position much easier. What I mean by this is that when looking at a wMEMO price chart, if you bought when wMEMO was say $67,000, you need the wMEMO price to return to $67,000 before you break even. This makes tracking whether you are at a loss or a profit easier than when following the time price, where you would have to consider the inflating supply to accurately determine the value of your position. In my last video, I briefly mentioned the liquidity pools used by decentralized exchanges, and it is also important to consider the benefits of wMEMO on this front. For example, consider an LP on the time MIM pair. When you stake time, the time is locked in a contract and you get memo as a receipt. So it's pretty clear that the time being held in the LP is not staked. This means that every time a rebase occurs, the time held in that LP represents a smaller and smaller portion of the market cap. Basically, it loses value every rebase as it isn't staked. This leads to an LP, which is essentially self-rugging. As wMEMO is not inflationary, it does not suffer from this, so LPs using it do not suffer from this dilutionary effect. So hearing this, people's reaction is basically asking whether they are now dependent on buy pressure to increase the value of their position. The answer is yes, but you basically were when holding time anyway. In addition, the recently introduced revenue share, which you can access by farming your wMEMO, also contributes to your position value, which will hopefully enable people to regain their losses in the long term. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Cheers.